Alright. Welcome back to Scholars Forum. I still remain Patrick Divine from the Department of Medical Surgical Nursing. In today's tutorial video, we'll be diving into the phylum Fungi in detail. First and foremost, I would like to remind you guys that fungi, they are mostly decomposer. Yes, one key thing about fungi, they are mostly decomposers. Meaning that they help break down dead organic matter. That is, they help break down they help to break down dead organic matter. They help to break down dead organic matter. However, a few species can cause disease in human and animal. Yes, and despite that fungi, they are decomposer, they help to break down dead organic matter. A few species of fungi have the tendency to cause disease. They have the tendency to cause disease in human and animal. And such class of fungi, they are called mycoses. Please pay attention, please. I said that fungi, they are mostly decomposer, meaning that they help to break down dead organic matter. But however, there are also few species of the fungi that can cause disease in human and animal, and those species, they are called the mycoses. Right, together, yes, they are called mycoses. So therefore, the study of fungi is called mycology. Mycology is the study of fungi. All together. Why the study of fungi toxin? The study of fungi toxin, that is the toxin that causes infection. The study of fungi toxin is called mycotoxicology. Right, together to this point, right? I said that, let me recap a little. I said that fungi, they are mostly decomposer, meaning that they help to break down dead organic matter. But however, there are few species that can cause disease in human and animal, and those species, they are referred to as the mycoses. Then the study of fungi is known as mycology, while the study of fungi toxin is called mycotoxicology. Now let's move into the general features of fungi from our slide here. First and foremost, fungi, they are eukaryotic, meaning that they have nucleus and organelles, unlike bacteria or viruses. Yes, unlike bacteria or viruses, they are eukaryotic. Yeah, fungi, they are eukaryotic. Meaning that they have nucleus. They have nucleus and other organelles, unlike bacteria or viruses. Also, another general feature of fungi is that they are unicellular organism. Yes, they can be either unicellular or multicellular. That is, they can be either a single cell organism or a multicellular organism, and many of them form branching filaments. Yes, which is also a general features of fungi. And also another remarkable feature of fungi is that they have they vary greatly in size. Yes, they vary greatly in size. That is, their size differs Their size differs, ranging from microscopic fungi to macroscopic, down to microscopic fungi, that is the one visible, down to uh, the visible structure, down to the visible structure. That is, in essence, they vary greatly in size. Yes, they vary greatly in size, from microscopic cell to visible structure like the mushroom. And also another general feature of the fungi is that they reproduce sexually and asexually, and also fungi, they lack chlorophyll, which distinguish them from plants. And also another general feature of fungi from our slide here is that their cell wall contain chitin. Yeah, their cell wall, it contains chitin and aldosterone, which make them resistant to some antibiotics. Yes, their cell wall, it contains chitin and aldosterone, which make them resistant to some antibiotic. Now let's move to what we have next in our slide, which is morphology. That is the morphology of fungi. When we talk about morphology, fungi morphology, it simply means the shape, structure, and form of fungi. That is how fungi look. That is what the morphology is talking about. It deals with, it means the shape, the structure, and form of fungi. That is how it look like. All right. We have three main types of fungi according to their shape, structure, and form. That is how the fungi look like. We have the mud-like fungi. We have the mud-like fungi. We have the yeast-like fungi, and also the dimorphic fungi. Let me write. I say classification of fungi based on morphology. We have the mud-like fungi, that is also known as the filamentous. Then we have the yeast-like fungi, and also we have the dimorphic fungi. Right, together, right? Um, the mud-like fungi, which is also known as the filamentous fungi. This is a type of fungus that grow in bread. That is bread mold, right? Yeah, it is a type of fungi. It grows in bread. The type of fungi that grows in bread. It grows in bread. Yes, mug-like feature. This is a type of fungus or fungi that grows on food like bread. Yes, it grows on food like bread. And for instance, when you see that fuzzy green or black stuff on food, especially when food gets spoiled, that is what we call the mud colony. Are we together? Yes, that's what we call the mud colony. I'm sorry, my board is occupied. Let me wipe it. Let me wipe my board. Alright, I said the filamentous or mud-like fungi. A mud is a type of fungi. Altogether, is a type of fungi that grows on food like bread. Yes, a type of fungi that grows on food like bread. When you see, like in food, when you see those fuzzy green or black stuff on food, that is what we call, that is when food on decompose, right? Especially when bread gets spoiled, you see one green fuzzy or black stuff on the bread. That's what we call the mud colony. That is those, the fuzzy green or black stuff, the mycelium. the mud colony is a big mass of mycelium. Are we together? Yes. I'll use a diagram later to explain what I'm saying here for better clarity. Are we together? I said that the mold is a type of fungi that grows on food like bread. And I said that whenever you see those fuzzy green substance or black stuff on food substance, especially bread, when it has spoiled, that is what we call the mold colony. And the mold colony, it refers to a big mass of mycelium. All together. Now let's just go into the basic structure of mold so that we'll explain in detail the basic structure of mold. Mold is not just one thing. That's the first thing I want you to get. The mold is not just one thing. It is made up of the hyphae. Yes, it is made up of what we call the hyphae, and these hyphae, they are tiny or thread-like structure. Yeah, the hyphae, they are tiny or thread-like. They are tiny thread-like structure. Altogether, the mold. One thing, when it comes to the structure of the mold, it is not a one thing. It is not just made up of one thing. It is not just made up of one thing. Sorry for my writing. Of one thing. It's not just made up of one thing. When it comes to the mold, it is made up of a thread-like structure called the hyphae. Yes, called the hyphae. It's made out of a thread-like structure called the hyphae. And this hyphae, the hyphae, that is this tiny thread-like structure, they form the body of the fungi. They form the body of the okay. Yeah, it would be fungus, right? Fungi is plural, fungus is singular. Of the fungus, all together, they form the body of the fungus. All together, and also the mold is also made up of what we call the mycelium. The mycelium. If you could remember, I said that the mold colony is a big mass of what? The mycelium. I said that also that the mold is a type of fungus that grow on food like bread, right? And I said that whenever you start to see those fuzzy green or black stuff on food, that's what we call the mold colony, and that mold colony is called the mycelium. All together. All right. This mycelium, when many hyphae join together, they form the mycelium. Are we together? When many hyphae join together, they form a network. They form a network. I'll use a diagram to explain. They form a network. Called the mycelium. All together, I said that when many hyphae join together, they form a network called the mycelium. And the mycelium, this is the main body of the mold. The main body of the mold. Why the hyphae? It form the body, right? It form the body. While the main body of the mold is the mycelium. All together, just a simple way to get this thing. It's very easy. And one hyphae. Let me wipe the board. Sorry, my board is occupied. Let me wipe my board so I will explain what I'm saying. Alright, I said one hyphae, right? Let me explain this in a simpler way. One hyphae is a thread. Are we together? Yes, is a thread. That is, a single hyphae is a thread. But many hyphae, are we together? Many hyphae many hyphae together, that is many hyphae when joined together, they form the mycelium. Are we together? Now let me draw a diagram to buttress on the points that have been saying concerning mud. I said that the mud is made up of a tiny like structure called the hyphae, right? Yeah, this is it, the tiny like structure called the hyphae. And I said that the hyphae, they form the body of the fungi, right? Yeah, they form the body of the fungi. And I also said that when many hyphae, that is this when many hyphae when they join together, they form a network called the mycelium. And I said the mycelium, it's also referred to the mud colony, that is a mass of mycelium form the mud colony. Yes, this diagram capture all what I've been saying. Look at it. The mass of mycelium, it form the mud colony. And if you check from this diagram very well, you see this is a food substance, right? They are bred precisely. And I said that initially the mud is a type of fungus that grow on food like bread. And I said that when you see all this fuzzy green or black stuff on food, that is what we call the mud colony. Yeah, look at this fuzzy black stuff, this fuzzy green or black stuff on the food substances. This is what we call the mud colony. And what form the mud colony is a mass of mycelium. We are together to this point, right? Yeah, and I say that mycelium, they form the main body parts. Yeah, look at it. They form the main body parts. They form the main body parts of the mud. And also one key thing about mycelium is that they grow, from this diagram, they grow on and inside the food. Yes, they grow on and inside the food, and they absorb nutrients to help the mud live. Because I said that the mycelium, the mud colony is a mass of mycelium that form the mud colony, right? And I said that one other key thing about the mycelium is that they grow on and inside the food substance. That is, this is the food substance, this is the mycelium. They grow on and inside the food substance, and the reason why they grow on the food substance is that they absorb nutrients to help the mud grow. We are together, right? All right. Let me in addition to what I've been saying, let me because in this diagram there is the sporangium, the spore. Let me explain it. All right, because the sporangium and the spore, they are the reproductive structure. Yes, they are the reproductive structure. They are the reproductive structure of the mud. They are the reproductive structure of the mud. Because the mud reproduce to spread and grow, right? Yeah. The essence of reproduction is for them to spread and grow. It uses special parts called the sporangium. Yeah, it uses the mud. It reproduces using the sporangium and the spore. Okay, the sporangium, they are found. That is, they are the structure that produce the spore. Are we together? This one, the sporangium, they are the structure that produces the spore, and they are usually found at the top of the stalk. Yes, they are usually found at the top. Look at it here. They are usually found at the top. They are usually found at the top of the at the top of the stalk. They are usually found and at the top of the stalk. Why the spore is the tiny reproductive cell. Yes, this is a reproductive cell. This is a reproductive cell. That is the gamete. Yes, let's call it. Yeah, this is the gamete, the reproductive cell, which is called the gamete of the mold. Are we together? Why the sporangium? The sporangium, it produces the spore, and the spore, they are the reproductive cell. They are the reproductive cell of the mold. Are we together? That is, they help the mold to spread and grow on new surfaces. That's the extent of reproduction, to grow, to reproduce, right? Yes. Are we together? The sporangium, they produce the spore, while the spore, they are the reproductive cell. Just an easy way to remember this: the spore, they are just like the seed of the fungi. Are we together? Yes, they are just like the seed. Let me write in. They are just like the seed of the fungi. And also from this diagram, you will see it explain what I've been saying. Hyphae, a long thin thread-like filament that make up the body of the mold, while the mycelium is a mass of network of hyphae that form the main body of the mold, and it absorbs nutrient. I've explained this. Then okay, there is other thing in this diagram that I've not explained yet. All right, let me wipe my board, then I will explain. I will explain the septate hyphae and the non-septate hyphae. From this diagram, you get to find out that the hyphae, they are of two types. The hyphae, they are of two types. We have the non-septate and the septic hyphae. Alright, the non-septic and the septic hyphae. That is, from this diagram now, we have two types of hyphae, right? The septate and the non-septate. And we know what is hyphae, right? A long thin thread like filament that make up the body of the mold. In the septic hyphae, they have cross septa. Yes, look at it here. They have cross septa. This over here, this over here. That is, they have cross septa. And look at this diagram, it explains it very, very well. It has cross septa or cross septum, which is crossword, this line over here. This line over here. It has cross septum, and also this cross septa divide it into two separate cells. Because if you check from the diagram here, if you check from this diagram, what is happening? If you check from this diagram, yeah, the septa divides the hyphae, because in the septated hyphae it has a cross, it has a cross wall called the septa. It has a cross wall called the septa, and this septa, look at it, this line over here, and this septa, it divides it into separate cells, and each cell have its own nucleus, because if this dotted part is the nucleus, this is also the nucleus. Each one has its own nucleus. This is the nucleus, this is the nucleus, this is the nucleus, this is the septum, this is the septum, this is the septum, which divide it into separate cells. This is a separate cell, this is a cell, this is a cell, this is a cell over here, this is a cell over here, this is a cell over here, this is a cell over here. That is, the word septa means divide, right? Yeah, the word septa means divide. In septated hyphae, they have septa, and this septa divides it into separate cell, and each cell has its own nucleus, either one or more. Look at it, this is 2, 1, 2, 1 or more. We're together to this point. An example of septated hyphae include the likes of example of organisms with septated hyphae include the penicillium. the penicillium, and aspergillus. Yes, this class of fungi, they are used in manufacturing of a class of antibiotic called the penicillin. Yeah, which is a class of antibiotic called the penicillin, which is a class of antibiotic. Then for the non-septated hyphae, which is also called the choanocytic hyphae, yeah, the non-septate hyphae. Um, this hyphae, this hyphae, they have no cross wall. One key feature about that is that they have no cross wall. Yes, they have no cross wall. They have no cross wall, and since they have no cross wall, that is, they contain many nuclei in one big cell. Like if you check this cell now, there is different nuclei. Are we together? It's just like one continuous tube. Yes, just like a one continuous tube like this. There is no septa. That is, there is no division, right? Just like a continuous tube like this. Are you together? That is the non-septated hyphae, because from the word septate means to divide, right? The non-septated hyphae, they have no division. Are you together? Yet an example of organism with non-septated hyphae, that the example of fungi with non-septated hyphae include the likes of the rhizopus, and mucor. Are we together? The likes of the rhizopus and mucor. We are together to this point, right? That means in exchange, we have two types of hyphae: the septated and non-septated. And also, when it comes to reproduction in mud, they have two reproduct. They have important structure for reproduction, which is the sporangium and the spore. The sporangium is the structure that produces the spore, and it is usually found at the top or at the tip of the stalk of a stalk, while the spore is the tiny reproductive cell that is like garment or seed of the fungi. We are together to this point, right? All right. Also, one key thing about the mud fungi, that is the filamentous fungi, under the classification of mud according to morphology. Because if you remember, we said that we have three morphology of fungi, which are the mud-like fungi, the yeast-like fungi, and dimorphic, right? Yeah, the mud-like fungi, the yeast-like, and the dimorphic. One key thing about the mud-like fungi, they causes superficial infection. Please take note of it. They causes superficial infection. Why the yeast, they causes internal or systemic. When you hear the word superficial, it means on the skin surface, right? Superficial dips, superficial something on top, right? Then I said the yeast, it causes internal infection. And also the dimorphic fungi, that is according to the classification based on shape, size, that is how fungi look back. The dimorphic fungi, they mostly affect the internal organ. Yes, they mostly affect the internal organ, but they are mostly associated with severe that is complicated or serious systemic infection. All right, now let's move to the next morphology of fungi, which is the yeast-like fungi. In our next slide. All right, the yeast-like fungi, these are single round cell. Yeah, they are single round cell. I will draw a diagram to explain what I'm saying. They are a single round cell, and the yeast-like fungi, they are single, that is, they are unicellular, right? Because we said that fungi could be multicellular or unicellular, right? This one, the yeast-like cell, they are unicellular. They are unicellular. They are unicellular. They are round. They have round. That means their shape is round. That is, they have round cells, and they are bigger. One key thing is that they are bigger than bacteria. They are bigger than bacteria. And also, one key thing about the yeast-like fungi is that they reproduce by budding. That is, they reproduce asexually by budding. Yes, they reproduce asexually by budding. And I said that previously on while discussing the mud-like fungi. I said that the yeast-like fungi, they often cause internal they causes internal or systemic infection. They causes internal or systemic infection. Yes, they causes internal or systemic infection. They are unicellular. They have round cell, and they are mostly larger than bacteria. That is one of the feature of the yeast-like fungi. Then we have the dimorphic. The third morphology of fungi is the dimorphic. The dimorphic, these fungi, they exist. Please get it now. Let me explain in simple terms. These fungi, they exist as yeasts. Are we together? They exist as yeast in one condition. And they exist as the mud-like fungi in another condition. Are you together? That is, they can either exist as the yeast-like fungi or the mud, depending on the condition. Yes, depending on the condition. An example of fungi with dimorphic morphology, that have dimorphic, that look like the example of fungi with the dimorphic morphology include the blastomites and the histoplasma capsulantum, the histoplasma capsulantum, and blastomyces dermatitis. Are we together? Yes. And we said that the dimorphic fungi, they are often associated with serious systemic infection. Yeah, they are mostly associated with serious systemic infection. They either exist as the yeast in one condition or mud in another separate condition. Let me show a diagram to explain the different shapes, that is, of parasite. Let's move to the next slide. Look at it. Shape of fungi. That is, fungi come in three main shape. We have the filamentous, which is the mud-like. We have the yeast-like, and the dimorphic. We said that the filamentous, they are made up of thin thread called the hyphae that grow and branch to form a mass called the mycelium, right? And the mass of mycelium give rise to what? The mud colony. Then we said that the mycelium, they are a group of hyphae that join together to form a network. And we said that the hyphae, they are of two types, the septated and the non-septated. The septated hyphae, they contain septa, that is a cross wall, we separate them into different cells, and each cell containing either one or more nuclei. While the non-septated hyphae, which said that it's just like a continuous tube, that is, there is no cross wall, right? Then we move on to talk about the yeast-like fungi. We said that they are unicellular, right? They are round or oval in shape. Look at it, they are round or oval in shape. They are larger than bacteria and they reproduce asexually by budding. Then we went on, we spoke about the classification based, the dimorphic. They are fungi that can exist as yeasts in one condition and mold in another condition. Their form is affected by environmental factors like temperature. Yes, their form is affected by environmental factor like temperature, and also, yes, and also carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, that is carbon dioxide. It also affects their form. It also affects their form. Now let's move to the next slide, which is nutrition in fungi. That is the fungi nutrition. Alright, and this slide is talking about the function of eukaryotic organelle. This from our basic biology, we have the knowledge of this, right? Now let's move to nutrition in fungi. That is fungi nutrition. Fungi, one of the key thing about fungi when it comes to their feeding habit is that fungi, they are heterotroph. They are heterotroph. They are heterotroph. This means that they cannot manufacture their own food like plants do. They need preform. Yeah, they need preform or pre-made organic carbon, right? Yeah, they need pre-made organic carbon to grow. That is, they depend on the autotroph for survival. That is, they must get their own food, right? They must get their own food from other source, which is the autotroph. And unlike animals, right, fungi do not eat or swallow food. Please take note of this. They do not eat. Fungi, they do not eat or swallow food, unlike other animal, but instead they absorb nutrients through their cell membrane. Are we together? They do not eat or swallow food like other animal. They rather absorb food. They rather absorb food. They rather absorb nutrients, that is food, right, through their cell membrane. They rather absorb food through their cell membrane. They rather absorb food through their cell membrane. Are we together? And for them to do this, the fungi, they release enzymes like the cellulose and the protease, because this enzyme, they helps to break down the organic matter around them into smaller absorbable piece. Because I said that they do not eat like other animals, they absorb food nutrient, and for them to be able to absorb that food nutrient, they release enzymes. They release these enzymes, the likes of the cellulose, and the protease. These enzymes, they help to break the organic matter, that is the food particle, into smaller absorbable form. And also, one key thing about fungi is that most fungi, they live saprophytically. That is, they are decomposer, right? They feed on dead and they live saprophytically. That is, they mainly feed on dead and decaying plant and animal. That is saprophyte. Dead and decaying plant and animal. Why some fungi they are parasitic? Some are saprophytic while others are parasitic. Yeah, I mean, they depend on their host for survival, right? They are parasitic animal, which they depend on their host for survival. In the process, they causes harm. They causes harm to their host, most especially man. Man is one of their host. We're together about. And also example of fungi that are parasitic, the likes of the candida. Are together. That is, when it comes to relationship, that is when it comes to host parasite relationship, which we spoke in when we are dealing with parasitology. And fungi, they 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 have they have the they have they exist as parasitic, that is parasitism, right, in which the host benefit and and in which the parasite benefits and the host suffer, right? Yes, and in parasitic association. And also some fungi, they live saprophytically, that is they feed on dead and decaying plants and animal. And also some, when it comes to host relationship, they also exist as symbiosis, yeah, symbiotic association, that is the fungi they exist as parasitic and symbiotic when it comes to hosts host parasite relationship. Like if you could remember when we were talking about host parasite relationship, we spoke about the lynch, right, which we said that the lynch is made up of algae and fungi. And we said that the lynch is made up of what? Algae. the lynch the leech sorry the lynch the lynch which is made the lynch which is made up of algae and fungi, right? And we said that both of them, they depend on each other to survive. Yes, they depend on each other. They depend on each other to survive. We're together to this point. All right. Now let's move to the next slide. Um, Reproduction in fungi. That is fungi reproduction. How fungi make more of themselves, right? How they make more of themselves. Fungi have two main way of reproducing, which are the asexual and the sexual. They have two main way of reproducing, which are the sexual and the asexual method of reproduction. Okay, let me break it down so that it will be easy. Um, when it comes to asexual reproduction, right? In asexual reproduction, fungi make what we call, in asexual, they make what we call the conidia. Yes, they make what we call the conidia, and this conidia, they are called, these are spores. All together, yes, these are spores. They make what we call the conidia through mitosis. All together, in asexual reproduction, the fungi, they make what we call the conidia, that is spore, through mitosis or by hyphae separation. If the hyphae, this hyphae mean one single thread. All together, one single thread is hyphae, while hyphae is what? Many thread which join together to form the mycelium, right? I say in asexual reproduction in fungi, um the fungi, they make what we call the conidia, and this conidia, these are spore. Are we together? And this spore, they are formed during mitosis. They are during mitosis, which is the cell division stage, right? Yes. All right. Now, basically, when they produce um when they produce spore, are we together? When they produce the spore, it form a new identical yeast. Are we together? It form a new identical yeast. Yeah, it form a new identically. That is basically what they do. What they do. What they do. It's just like cloning. Yes, it's just like cloning. Yeah, there's what we call cloning. It's just like cloning. That is new cell, new cell. That is exactly the same. That's exactly the same as the parent. That's exactly the same as the parent. That is how the fungi, they reproduce asexually. They reproduce asexually by producing what we call the conidia, that is the spore during mitosis, and this spore later develop into the same yeast, that is into new identical yeast. That is what we call the cloning. The cloning, which is a process in which new cell that is exactly the same as the parent cell is being produced. Right, together, right? Then now when it comes to the sexual reproduction is a bit more interesting. That is when it comes to sexual reproduction in fungi. Sexual it is a bit interesting, because here the haploid cell, right? The haploid cell, the haploid nuclei, the haploid nuclei from two fungi, they fuse, they fuse together, they fuse to form a diploid nuclei. That is a haploid cell. That is a haploid cell have number of chromosomes of one fungi, and from one fungi and another from another fungi, they fuse together during fertilization to form a diploid nucleus. Then this diploid nucleus then undergo meiosis. It undergo meiosis to produce genetically diverse spore. You know that in asexual reproduction, they produce exactly the same as their parent. That is, there is no variation. While in sexual reproduction in fungi, they produce diverse spore. Because here in the sexual reproduction, the haploid nuclei from two fungi, they fuse together during fertilization to form diploid cell, and this diploid nucleus, nuclei to form nucleus, right? Then this diploid nucleus undergo what we call meiosis, which is a cell division to produce an offspring that is genetically diverse from the parent. That is genetically different from its parent. Now the next thing here on our slide is classification of fungi. Fungi can be classified based on the kind of sexual pore they produce. We have the ascomacytes, that is, they produce the ascopore. Let me write it here so you will not forget. They produce the ascopore. Altogether, they produce the ascopore. The basidiomycetes, they produce the basidiopore. Basidiopore. It's a classification of fungi based on the kind of the sexual pore they produce. Then the phecomycetes or the zygomacytes, this one, they produce the zygospore. Then we have the deuteromacytes. These they produce no pore. They produce no pore. This one, they are normally called the imperfect fungi. Are you together? Let me wipe my board so I will explain properly. Alright, I said that fungi classify into 4 classes based on the kind of sexual pore they produce. We said that the ascomacytes, they produce the ascopore. An example of such fungi that produces ascopore is the like of the yeasts. And the morels. Then also we said that basidiomycetes, it produces the basidiopore. An example is the like of the mushroom. Mushroom and nuts. Mushroom and the rust. Then the next is the phygomacyte or the zygomacyte. We said that they produce the zygopore, right? They produce the zygopore. An example is the like of the bread mold. The bread mold. And also the last is the deuteromacyte. And I said that the site, they are imperfect fungi. They have no known sexual stage. Altogether, they have no known sexual state. They are also called the imperfect. They are also called the imperfect fungi. Alright, okay. Yeah, I said rust. Yeah, rust. Yes, I said the ascomocyte, they produce the ascopore. Example is the like of the yeast, morel, and also I said the basidiomycete, they produce the basidiospore, which is their sexual pore, right? Yes, the like of the mushroom rust. Then the zygomocyte, which produce the zygopore, which is the bread mold, and the deuteromocytes. They said they are imperfect fungi. They have no known sexual stage. Alright, now the next thing here on our slide is immunity. Yes, immunity. That is how the body defend itself, right? Immunity simply means the body ability to resist infection or disease. That is how your body protects you from getting sick. Okay. All right. Now the study of how the body fights foreign substance is called immunology. That is how the body fights foreign substance is called immunology. It's called the immunology. And and uh, and immunology is the branch of science which helps us to understand the immune system. Are we together? I said that the study of how the body fight foreign substance, is called immunology. And also, immunology, it is a branch of science that focuses on understanding the immune system. Are we together? And also, one very important thing I would like you guys to know is that the immune system can distinguish between self and non-self. That is self. What I mean by self here is that it can what I mean here is that it knows your normal body shell. Yes, it knows your normal body shell. That it can distinguish self from non-self. Non-self, which means anything foreign. Yes, it has the ability to distinguish self from non-self. I said non-self, anything foreign, like bacteria, like the likes of bacteria, fungi, viruses, or toxins. All together, that is the immune system. It has the ability to distinguish between self and non-self. We are together to this point. And let's move to our next slide. All right. We have two types of immunity. From our slide there, we have two types of immunity. There are two main types of immunity. We have the non-specific types of immunity. We have the non-specific or the innate immunity, We have the non-specific or the innate immunity. The non-specific or the innate immunity. This is just like the first. Yeah, this is the first line of defense. Are we together? Yeah, let me explain. The first line of defense. It is what you are born with. Are we together? Yes, it is the first line of body defense. It is what you are born with. What you are born with. It is the first line of body defense. It is what you are born with. It includes the skin, which is the body defense. Are we together? Which act as physical barrier. You know the skin as physical barrier. Are we together? It includes the mucus, which traps microbes, right? Yeah, the mucus which trap microbes, and also enzymes like the like of the lysosome. Yeah, enzymes like the lysosome which destroy bacteria. Enzyme, the likes of the lysosome, you are born with it, which destroy bacteria. It destroy bacteria altogether. Now, this type of immunity, they respond the same way every time. The non-specific, or the innate, they respond. They respond. They respond the same way. The same way every time. This is also another feature of the non-specific immune system. I said that the non-specific immune system, they are the first line of defense. That is what you are born with, right? Example include the skin, the mucus. We said the skin provide physical barrier, the mucus trap microbes, while the enzyme, and also enzyme we put like the likes of the lysosome we destroy bacteria altogether. Then I went further to say that this type of immunity, they respond the same way every time. That is without change. They respond unlike the specific immune response. Altogether, they respond the same way every time. They respond the same way. They respond the same way every time. And another key feature of the non-specific immune system is that it has no memory of previous response. That is why they respond the same way at every time altogether. And also it acts immediately. Altogether, it acts immediately. That is the key features of the non-specific immune response is that they act the same way every time. It has no memory. Cell, and also it acts immediately. And this kind of immune cell, this kind of immunity, that is the innate immunity in which a person is born with, they are normally found in body fluid like the tears, the saliva, the mucus, the sweat. Altogether, they are normally found in body fluid like the tears, saliva, mucus, sweat altogether. So anytime something tries to enter your body, this system is the first to respond. That's why I started with that. They are the first line of body defense altogether. So anytime that something tries to enter your body, they are the first to respond quickly, but it does not remember the infection, unlike the specific. Please take note of this thing. They are the first to respond. Enter any infection, try to enter to your body to respond to infection. They are the first to respond to infection, but they do not keep memory. They do not keep memory of the infection altogether. Alright, now let's move to the second type of immunity, which is the specific immunity or specific immune response, which is also known as the acquired adaptive immunity. Let me wipe my board so I will have enough space. The adaptive or specific immunity, the adaptive, number 2, right? The adaptive or acquired or non or specific immunity, this one is more advanced altogether. This one is more advanced. It develops after exposure to pathogen. The body develop it after exposure to pathogen, like let's say bacteria or viruses altogether, right? It develops after exposure to pathogen like bacteria and viruses. Why we said that the non-specific, that one individual is born with it, right? Why the adaptive or specific immunity, we said that it develops after exposure to pathogen, and another thing is that it becomes stronger That is, it becomes stronger with repeated exposure because the body has memory of it. We said that in the non-specific, the body does not have memory of it, that the body responds the same way every time. But while in adaptive or specific immunity, it becomes stronger on exposure, that is on repeated exposure to that pathogen. Are we together? The body becomes stronger to fight that specific pathogen. Are we together? The reason why the body becomes stronger is that the body has memory. It has memory of that pathogen. Yeah, it has memory of that pathogen. For example, let me give an example to buttress on the adaptive or specific immunity for clarity. um if you could remember, after you fake a vaccine, right? Are we together? After faking a vaccine, let's say for measles, right, initially, which is a DPT, right, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, measles, which are doing immunization, right? After you take a vaccine, right, your body produce antibodies. Are we together? Your body produce antibody and memory shell. So later in life, if that same pathogen enter your body again, the body respond faster. Are we together? The body respond faster and fight against it. That's why if you see children that are being immunized during childhood, it's very hard that they fall into, that is, that they become a victim of some of the childhood illness, like the likes of the diphtheria, measles, pertussis. Are we together? That's why immunization vaccine, it's very very important. It's very very important during childhood. Are we together? Yes. I said that after you've taken that vaccine, right, your body produce antibodies and memory cell. So later in life, when the same pathogen enter your body has the memory of that same pathogen. So therefore, it responds faster and fight against it, thus preventing infection and disease process in an individual. Altogether, that's the different types of immunity: the non-specific and the specific. Altogether, the non-specific is just like, let me just use the simple illustration to explain that just came to my head. Just like the security guard at the gate, right? Yeah, the security guard, the non-specific, just like the security guard at the gate, that is always active, fast moving here and there, but does not recognize faces. Yes, that is the non-specific immunity. That's like the security guard at the gate, that is always active, moving there and there, and does not recognize facing. Then the adaptive immunity is just like a trained officer. Yeah, just like a trained officer with a record book. Yeah, a trained officer with a record book. Once it sees a criminal, it remembers very fast and it reacts. Are we together? All right, that is all we have for this slide. Now let's move to the next slide, um, which is the fungi pathogenetics. Yeah, the fungi pathogenetics. That is how fungi causes disease. Are we together? Which is called pathogenetics. Yeah, how fungi causes disease. That is pathogenicity. How fungi causes disease. Alright, the first thing that will come to your mind: what is pathogenic microorganism? From your slide, a pathogenic microorganism is any microorganism that is capable of causing disease. Altogether, a pathogenic microorganism is any organism that is capable of causing disease. Altogether, but I want you guys to take note of this: not all microorganisms cause disease. Note, not all microorganisms Not all microorganism causes disease, because some of the microorganisms, some of them they are harmless. Yes, some of them they are harmless, some are harmless, while some are beneficial. Why some are beneficial? Yes, some are beneficial. Now, two important terms that you ought to take note of, which are pathogenicity and virulence. From your slide here, two important terms you ought to take note of: the pathogenicity and virulence. Alright, pathogenicity is the ability of an organism to cause disease. Ability of an organism to cause disease. Why virulence? This refers to how severe, that is the severity, how severe or serious the disease is. The two important things you ought to take notes from your slide. Pathogenicity, the ability of an organism to cause disease, while virulence refers to how severe, that is how severe or serious the disease is. So a microorganism can be pathogenic, but the level of the damage it causes depends on the virulence. Are we together? Because we said that pathogenesis refers to the ability of the microorganism to cause disease, while virulence it refers to how severe or serious the disease is. So therefore, a microorganism can be pathogenic, that is, it can cause disease. Altogether, a microorganism can be pathogenic, but the degree of damage, or the level of damage it causes depend on its virulence. All together, because these two terminology they are being used interchangeably. All together, pathogenicity which refers to the ability of a microorganism to cause disease, while virulence it refers to how severe or serious that disease is. We are together, right? So therefore, a microorganism can be pathogenic, that it has the ability to cause disease, but the degree or the level of damage it can cause depend on its virulence. We are together to this point. All right. So therefore, what is the next thing on your slide? What is the next thing on your slide? What is the next thing on your slide? Okay, let's move to the next page. All right. There's one thing that is not being captured. Okay, yeah, virulence factor. Fungi have what we call the virulence factor. Let me highlight it. Fungi have what we call the virulence factor, and this virulence factor helps the fungi. They are just like special features that help the fungi to survive in the body. Altogether, they are special features that help the fungi to survive in its host's body. It helps the virulence factor. The virulence factor. Fungi have what we call the virulence factor. They help fungi to survive. There are special features that help fungi to survive in the host body. Number two, it helps fungi to multiply and also causes disease in its host. Altogether, the fungi they possess what we call the virulence factor, and this virulence factor helps them. These are special feature, or these are special adaptive feature that helps them to survive in the body, multiply, and causes disease. Okay, now let's move to our next slide. All right, some of the important some of the steps involved in fungi infection. Now let's look at how fungi actually infect the body step by step. That is how fungi infect the body step by step. Number one is the entering into the host. And first, the fungus must enter the body. Altogether, yes, for it to cause infection, we are looking at or we are looking at the step that is how fungi actually infect the body. The first thing first, that is the step involved in pathogenicity, right? First thing first, the fungi must enter the host, enter into the host. First, the fungi must enter the body of the host, and it can enter through either through the lungs, that is, it can enter the lungs of the host by inhalation, that is during breathing, right? During breathing in, inhalation. And it can also enter through the mouth. That means the fungi entering into the host, it might be through the lungs, through the mouth, genital tract, it can also be through broken skin. That is when there is an injury to the skin. When there is an injury to the skin. So anytime there is an exposure, that is anytime there is an opening, fungi find their way in. Altogether, this is the first step in fungal infection, entering into the host, and the fungi gets its way, or it finds its way into the host through through either through the lungs during inhalation, through the mouth or the genital tract, or whenever there is an opening or exposure, the fungi find its way. Then the second step in fungal infection is what we call the adherence. The adherence is what we call the adherence. After entering the fungi, after entering, right, after entering inside the host, the fungi must attach to the host cell. Altogether, yes, after entering the host, that is, this is the host. Let's say this is the host, right? After the fungi enter inside the host, the next thing the fungi must do is to attach itself to the host. And for the fungi to be able to attach itself to the host, it does this using structure called the adhesin. Yes, using structure called the adhesin. And the adhesin, these are thick. They are just like thicky substance that help fungi hold onto the body shell, so they are not easily removed. Altogether, I said that after entering into the host, the next thing is adherence. That is, after the entrance of the fungi must attach to the host cell, and it does it using what we call using a structure called the adhesin. And this adhesin, they are thick substance. The adhesin, they are thick substance. They are thick substance that helps fungi to attach to the body shell. They help fungi to attach to the body cell of the host, so that they are not easily removed. Altogether, so that they are not they are not easily removed. That is the adenosine factor. The adenosine factor or substance. They are thicky substance. Substance in the body of the fungi, which helps it to hold on to the body shell of its host. Altogether, then after attaching to the host, then the next thing that the fungi does is invasion. Yes, the next step in fungal infection, the next thing it does is invasion. That is, the third step is invasion. The fungi begin to invade deeper. From the word invasion, it begins to go deeper. It begin to go deeper into the tissues of the host. They achieve this. For them to do this, they do this by producing enzyme like the protease. Yes, they produce the enzyme like the proteases, These enzymes, they break down tissue. They break down tissue, that is the tissue in the host cell, the tissue in the host body, thus allowing the fungi to spread deeper into the body. The fourth step in fungal infection, that is in fungal infection process, is the fungal toxin and tissue injury. At this stage, damage starts to occur. Are we together? That is at the fungi toxin and tissue injury. Damage starts to occur. The fungi may produce toxin. The fungi may produce toxin, which causes damage to the cell or tissue of the host. But very importantly, I want you guys to take note of this, that much of the damage is actually caused by the body immune response trying to fight the infection. Altogether, much of the damage is caused by the body immune response trying to fight the infection. So sometimes the body defense that is the body defense mechanism itself contributes to tissue injury. We are together, right? Yes, because when the body is being invaded by pathogenic microorganism, the body defense mechanism respond, and the body, in order to protect itself, that is, it alert the body that there is a foreigner or there is a stranger, and the body does that through two process, through the cellular response and the vascular response, in order to fight intruder or invader. Are we together? And in the process of fighting the intruder or invader, there is what we call, it leads to reaction in the body. Yeah, it leads to tissue reaction. That's what we call the inflammatory process. That is the inflammatory response, which also contributes to tissue injury. Altogether, so in essence, for a fungus to cause disease, it must first of all enter into the host, then attach to cell, then invade the tissue, then causes damage. Alright, now let's move to our next slide. Okay, mycoses, which is also called, that is fungal infection, right? Fungal infection, mycoses, also known as fungal infection. Infection caused by fungi, it's called mycoses. Infection caused by fungi is called mycoses. It's called mycoses. Alright, from your slide, it read that mycosis is a fungal infection. Is a fungal infection or disease caused by fungi. Yes, and it varies. It varies in severity from mild symptom down to life-threatening, which is very, very true. That is, in essence, mycosis simply means an infection caused by fungi, right? And this infection can be mild or severe, that is life-threatening. It all depends on the location, yes, on the site of the infection. Then we have the classification of fungal infection, where we have the superficial mycosis, the cutaneous mycosis, the subcutaneous mycosis, the systemic mycosis, and the opportunistic mycosis. For the superficial mycosis, these are mild infection. Yeah, they are mild infection that affect the skin. The hair, or nails. From the name superficial, they are mild infection that affect the skin, hair, nails. An example of such infection is of source mycosis is there's what's the name of this fungi? All right, yes, I remember. Mala is it Malassezia? Yeah, Malassezia, which causes dandruff. Yes, it causes dandruff. It causes dandruff. It causes dandruff. It's an example of superficial mycosis, that is a fungal infection that affects the superficial layer of the body. And this type of infection, it causes mild it results to mild infection. Yeah, mild infection that affect the skin, the hair, the nails. And one important thing about the superficial infection is that they do not trigger immune response, since it have not yet entered, it is not that deep. Altogether, one key thing about them is that they do not trigger immune response, unlike other type of mycosis, right? They do not trigger immune response, unlike other type of fungal infection. Then the next type of fungal infection is the cutaneous mycosis. The cutaneous mycosis, this this infection, this infection, it affects the skin. Yeah, it affects the skin, from the word cutaneous, like the skin. It affects the hair and the nails, but it go a bit deeper. Altogether, it go a bit deeper than the superficial, a bit deeper, than the superficial. And some of the symptoms that you get to know that one is having a cutaneous infection is that such an individual will have itching, redness, and scaling. And such area will be itching, like in the skin. Yes, like in the skin, when one have ringworm. Yes, like ringworm in the skin is a good example of cutaneous mycosis, which is being caused by the fungi epidimophyton. Yeah, ringworm is a good example. It's a good example of cutaneous infection. Ringworm, which is being caused by this fungi called the epidimophyton. Epidimophyton is a good example of cutaneous mycosis. In the cutaneous mycosis, it affects the skin, the hair, knee, but this one they go a bit deeper than the superficial infection, and its symptoms include itching, redness, killing. An example of cutaneous infection is ringworm, and also athlete's feet, and also the athlete's feet, both caused by this fungi, the epidimophyton. They both cause it both cause epidimophyton, both cause the ringworm and the athlete's feet. So anytime you see itching and ring-like skin infection, think of cutaneous mycosis, right? All right. Now let's move to the third class of fungal infection, which is the subcutaneous mycosis. These infection occur below the skin. That is, we have the cutaneous layer on top of the skin, sub below. Are we together? It occur below. It occur below the skin. It occur below the skin. Let me wipe my board so that I will write. It occur below the skin. Yeah, it occur below the skin. The subcutaneous mycosis, or the subcutaneous fungal infection. The subcutaneous, from the word sub, under the skin, right? Yeah. And how do they enter? They normally enter through cut or injury to the skin. That's how the fungal get their way into the subcutaneous layer of the skin, like through cut or injury. Yes, through cut. That is when the integrity of the skin is being impaired. Through cut or injuries. That's how they get their way into the subcutaneous layer of the skin. And some of its symptoms include there will be a nodule. Yeah, there will be a nodule, just like a bump. Yeah, a nodule is just like a bump, like pimples, but it is more, but it differs from pimples. Yeah, it differs from pimples in the sense that it's a bit deeper. Yeah, it's a bit deeper and firm compared to pimples. And also another symptom of subcutaneous infection is that there will be ulcer. That is, there will be wound. There will be wound. Yeah, there will be wound in the skin, and these infection, they are usually localized. The subcutaneous mycosis infection, they are usually localized, but they can become very serious if they are not treated. That is, they occur at a particular area, at a particular area being infected. Yes, but if they are not being treated, it can lead to systemic infection. Yes, it can lead to systemic infection, which become more life-threatening and fatal altogether. Yes, the subcutaneous, if not well managed, it can lead to systemic infection. So the next type of fungal infection is the systemic. Is the systemic mycosis. A systemic mycosis. The systemic mycosis or fungal infection. These are very serious. They are serious. They are serious infection. The reason why they are serious because they affect internal organ like the lungs and brain and other organs are together, but they are very serious. They are very serious infection because they affect the internal organs. Yes, they affect the internal organs. An example of fungi that causes systemic mycosis is the like of the histoplasma, histoplasma, and the blastomites. Yeah, very true. And the blastomites, histoplasma and the blastomites, and normally they normally enter through, they normally enter the body through inhalation. Yes, that is through the respiratory system. That is, one can inhale their spore. Then once they enter, then they spread inside the body and causes severe disease. We are together to this point, right? Yeah, they are mostly transmitted mostly through the respiratory system, inhalation of the spore. Then the last type of the fungal infection, which is the opportunistic mycosis. Um, from the name opportunistic. Let me write opportunistic. From the name opportunistic, right? From the name opportunistic, these infections occur in people with weak immune system. Please take note of this. It normally occur in people. The opportunistic mycosis, they normally occur in people with weak immune system. That is, immunocompromised individual. Example of such people like people with HIV/AIDS, people with cancer patient, and also people on long-term drug. You know that drug have side effects. Yes, like if you take drugs for too much, for too long a time, it has adverse effects. It has a very serious adverse effect. Yes, has a very serious adverse effect. An example of opportunistic fungi include the likes of the candida. Definitely aspergillus is there, aspergillus, and the cryptococcus. This fungi, the opportunistic mycosis, or the fungi, they normally may not cause disease in healthy people. Altogether, the opportunistic fungi, they normally may not cause disease in healthy people, but they mostly take advantage. of people with low immunity. That's why they are being called the opportunistic fungi. We are together to this point. Now let's move to the next slide, which is antifungal drugs. Alright, now let's talk about the treatment of patient with or an individual with fungal infection. One thing I want to draw your attention is that fungal infection are harder to treat than bacterial infection. The reason is that the fungal shell are very similar to the human shell altogether. So the drug that kill fungi can also affect the human cell, making them more toxic. That's the reason why fungal infection is hard, is more harder to treat than the bacteria, but than bacterial infection, because the fungal shell is very similar to the human shell. So drug that kill fungi can also cause toxicity to man altogether. So we have different types of antifungal drug. We have the topical drug, the one used for superficial infection, that is, they are mostly applied on the skin. Then we have the systemic drug, the one used for deep or severe infection, and mostly it also required long-term use. Yes, long-term use. It mostly require long-term use. Now let's move to our next slide. Alright, these are the drugs used in the treatment of fungi, that is antifungal drug. One important thing I want you to get here for your level, because I will not go too deep into this, because you guys did not have the basic knowledge of pharmacology. That's why I will not explain it too deep, because for me to explain this now, you guys ought to have gotten the basic knowledge of pharmacology. Yes. Now let me just give you what you need for now. Is that the heading we talk about, the name, that is drug use. I think I will not explain this one for now, because you guys don't have the basic knowledge altogether. Yeah, you guys don't have the basic knowledge for now, because if you check here, there is a drug, there is fluconazole. It's I will not explain this one for now, because you guys don't have the basic knowledge of pharmacology. Yes, pharmacology. And thank you very much. See you guys in the next tutorial.